You're listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner.
Hey guys, it's Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner. And tonight we have a treat with you. We have Matt Crawford, GM of Iowa United. Matt, what's going on?
Hey, how are you guys doing? Good to see you guys again.
Doing great, man. How you been?
Good.
So Matt, it's the season of applications and you've applied before. So how does that work? Like, what's the application process like at this time in the TBT schedule?
Yeah, I mean, at this point you kind of got, I mean, we're getting close to the middle of May. We're getting close to the deadline. So, I mean, at this point you kind of have most of your roster set. So, now you're just kind of going through, a couple different things. Some are internal, some are external. Internally, you're kind of getting everything logistically maybe a little more set up. Where you're going, what region, are you going to have a mini camp, that sort of thing. But you're kind of just getting your ducks in a row, working with coach. Are you going to have an itinerary? What's your day? What's that week going to look like for your team right now?
Right. Yeah. So as Hayner mentioned, application period opened up. So it's going to be a little shorter window this year for the TBT. Just opened up on May 1st, and everything I'm hearing is going to stay open until about mid-June. So really short window. And you mentioned a couple of things about getting your rosters together. And so what's the most important thing when kind of constructing this roster? What kind of things do you consider aside from talent when picking a team out?
Well, I mean, I think you got to have a little bit of a story. You got to have a hook. So, I mean, part of this whole process is you got to have a good, talented team, but you also have to have a reason people want to watch, right? So, the example I give is a couple of years ago, us, signing Megan Gustafson. That was a big hook.
Yeah.
It would have been a really neat story. Luckily, she got a contract, wasn't able to play, but it's just thinking of like kind of about that kind of stuff. Last year, acquiring, Mike Dom before, with the COVID smaller thing. We're not going to go into it, but yeah. So things like that, getting big name people, things that people would be really interested in seeing, outside of, our little bubbles that we have with our teams.
Yeah, you mentioned the my little bubble thing too, and the COVID thing. Obviously, again, we had Iowa United. People or fans of season one, they were an early one seed because of Dom and because of some of the roster moves they had made, and we were very high on the team. And really, they would have been a great participant. The 24 teams really put a lot of wonderful teams on the sideline that really belonged in a 64-team tournament. So it's unfortunate, but the COVID's still with us. So how do you, as someone who's applied both pre-COVID and had a team that went to Wichita and had a good team prior to COVID, do you see lasting effects of COVID protocols affecting how teams are structured?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit, maybe not quite as much, obviously, this year. And especially, the tournament did such a good job in how they handled it. I think you're going to have guys that, are looking at it like, well, hey, they did a great job with how they handled it. Everybody came out well. So, I mean, just that organization front on their side, I think helps, get more guys maybe involved this year that maybe were a little hesitant because of COVID last year.
Yeah, hopefully this year, God willing, it's going to be a lot more freed up and get a lot more teams involved. Obviously, still have some concerns that TBT and the teams will work through, but looking forward to a full 64 team. And you mentioned kind of, we talked to Dan, and the number one thing is, fan base and watchability. And what I found interesting looking at the website recently is already 17 of the 24 teams out there are those alumni teams. So, I mean, just a lion's share of teams, alumni teams. You got three more that are kind of theme teams, D2, D3, and the nerd team, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And that's kind of that bucket you fell in with Iowa United. And they only left Sideline Cancer, the region, Alex Lemonade Stand, of Cheaters. So someone who, is coming into the TBT, you get a lot of these teams that aren't really affiliated with a university or not a blended team. What advice do you have for that kind of starting to form Iowa United and needing to go that direction to be known?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think the biggest thing right now teams probably need to do is you got to think of how, at this point, how am I marketing my team? Not only to the tournament, but to everyone else, right? So and what I mean by that is, you got to think in the capacity of what is going to make me in middle Iowa care about watching your team, right? What's going to make me I'm purely pulling this out. Eastern Tennessee team. What's going to make me want to watch you play? Buffalo. What's going to make me want to watch you play? Because you know who you have. Your fans know who you have. And I'll say this again, doesn't always mean the tournament knows who you have, okay? Because that's a lot of guys that apply for this. They can't possibly know who all these dudes are from all these schools, right? So what are you doing to market that team? What's your story? What's your hook? Do you have a rival? Do you want to just make one up? Bump your gums a little bit. Something that
professional wrestling is the theme, right? 90%
Yes.
basketball, 10%
Yes.
professional wrestling. Be
Well,
a
you can
heel,
go
cause a
herd that
fight.
and just be herd that and just be a rival of everybody. And then you don't
Elmore
put anybody
versus
out.
the world.
and you watch their Twitter. I mean, they do. They like to needle, and it's
They definitely get that part of it.
They do get it. But I think that'd be my mentality now is, okay, what is my story? How am I marketing this to someone that absolutely does not care about my school, can't name one player from my school? What's going to make them watch? What's a good story on your team? That sort of thing. I think that's probably what I would focus on right now is how do you hook everybody?
Yeah, and one of the interesting things I found with you leading the team last year is just some of the partnerships you built with local businesses and some of the programming that you guys were doing. It was every week I can count on, some sort of information coming out from Iowa United, some form of giveaway. And that seemed like it really drew in a lot of new fans to Iowa United.
Yeah, and that's fun. I mean, and that was all part of it is, I've always said, I think, people care more about your team when they feel more involved. So, it was giveaways, it was, little meet and greets, things like that we did. And that's another thing, some of these teams can find, one of the things I would do is whatever region we were going to, I'd see if that city had an alumni association in it from Iowa State or Iowa, and contact and go, hey, we'd like to come see you guys, come to the game, whatever it is. That worked well in Peoria a few years back with the Iowa State group. And we had those kinds of plans again. But yeah, I mean, I think those things are important to do. But it's just marketing. It's just trying to get your name out there and people find it interesting.
Yeah, and it's interesting, Matt, because we talked about narrative, talk about how good a team Iowa United's had, and again, just a damn shame it was they couldn't play last tournament. We were really looking forward to it, but you actually were a really good recruiter. You had a really great roster, and could you offer advice to a fledgling TBT GM who really wanted to do this for the first time? I mean, let's be honest, it's probably a little late to start flapping your gums now for 2021, but maybe for 2022, what advice would you give to someone who sat in your chair that wants to pull off the next big team in TBT, or for recruiting? What do you need to recruit with?
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing a single team, I mean, it's, I've always said it's kind of like having a party. The cool kids kind of want to know who's coming. So, it's getting that elite coach, finding somebody that's going to recruit. If it's a player that can call up some guys, so that's important. But it's a lot of things. What's your marketing plan? How are you funding this? Or how are you getting sponsors? So. The biggest thing is just I think right now, if you're going to think about doing it for 2022, is start putting out those feelers to your school. Some of those guys, the more prominent players, you need at least, 6-7 horses to really run in this kind of thing. So it's getting kind of a good feeling about maybe where some of those type of guys would be at, that you said, hey, if I form this, are you guys in, and then, and it's kind of going from there. It's going, just kind of gets into all the media people that are involved, and you can take it a long ways, that's for sure. But yeah, I think it's kind of building that base of, hey, I know I've got 6 or 7 dudes, and then I can fill out the rest after that. But I got 6 or 7 dudes that say they want to play.
Yeah, you got to have a backbone. You got to have a core, and you have to make big roster moves. You have to start to make these moves where you're changing the teams and you're really making your team have those kind of guns. And some teams have already started that. It's a good segue into our next step. Go ahead.
Let me say one more thing. I was going to say one more thing. And the hard part now, let's say you are a new GM, I'm just going to make up a team. Let's say you said, I want to start a Missouri alumni. I just purely make that up. Okay. What's getting hard now is all those dudes, those 6, 7, 8 dudes that you said, hey, this would be the roster right here. If they're good, they've already been called.
Yeah.
So, Sideline or somebody canceled or called him already, or Eberline has called him, or
Yeah.
these guys have called him. That makes your job tougher if you're starting a new alumni team, for sure.
Yeah, it's interesting too, and we've seen that already because obviously, and we knew it wasn't really a thing, but one of our earlier shows we talked about the remote possibility that Remy Abel might consider going with Xavier, zip him up, which will have a very quality team, but there's no way he's not going to don the purple. He's been with Sideline multiple program years, and he obviously loves the team. So the alumni teams, if you're late to the game, you really have to start drawing from their people. In fact, when I was in Richmond to watch Bluff City, which I think that year was Memphis State, which is obviously, as everybody watched this knows I'm a huge Memphis fan. They literally lost to Team DRC, who had Memphis legend Darius Washington playing against them because he's from Florida. You want to play with him. So there's definitely, you got to get in and start the programming earlier, and getting those moves is important. So a couple of them have already started. One that's really almost a ground shaking one is Team LS mates just making massive moves. Dominique Johnson's a really big scorer. And then adding Jerome Randall from Eberline is just I think they retired his number last year. We're hearing sources say this is more of like a soccer loan where it's a 1-year kind of deal. I think it's a very good chance he will be driving with Eberline again in the future. But I mean, what do you guys charge? Like, you have that tweet down there. Could you explain that tweet thinking?
Yeah, no, these guys are ridiculous. If these guys aren't looking at a 1 seed, 2 seed minimum, I'd be shocked. In the back of my head, I was always wondering if Jerome Randall was going to kind of resurface this year, not knowing who or where. But this is the case, the rich get richer. And so Sean Marshall GMing this team is just putting together a juggernaut. And you have Jerome Randall, Dominique Johnson, who they just announced today. So you kind of see that. But Tyrese Rice is just dominant. And then they've gotten their core guys that have played with ALS for a while with Marvell Harris and Deshaun Stevens, who are just incredible. So they've announced 5 players, and those are 5 upper
killers,
echelon
just
players.
killers.
I mean, so you haven't even seen the rest of their team. If there are a couple more studs in there or quality, bench players, role players, but I mean, just an incredible team. I cannot see this team going anywhere but 1, possibly 2. And it's a logjam. We talked about the talent at the top.
Yeah, Matt, where do you see this team? Like, how dangerous are these 2 guys and Rice? I mean, how would you game plan against that kind of roster, Matt?
I'm glad I'm not in this year. Jerome Randall, Tyrese Rice, you could have stopped there. But yeah, adding those Dominique and Harris, I mean, that's gonna be tough. I don't know how you don't. I mean, nobody's gonna have. I mean, I don't know. Nobody's gonna have anything for those 2. I mean, they're just dominant guys.
Yeah. Right now, I think it's clear cut. If I was doing a 1 and 2 overall seed right now, I think between them and Sideline Cancer, I mean, I think it's those 2, and it's not close right now. And that's only taking in what we know. Obviously, Overseas Elite's going to be in the game. There's going to be other people who are showing up with rosters we don't know yet. But I think easy 1-2 between ALS and Sideline right now.
And just to bring it back to the bracketology show earlier, we had them as a consensus after we do the blending everybody sort of takes. We had them at a 3 seed in Columbus. We don't know where they're going to be applying it, I think, but we had them actually right around the 3 line. We had them as a 4 line actually when we blended them in Columbus, and we had them on a true seed line as low as 14th if you do the true seed line. And I think that they moved up literally 10 digits to like a number 1 line with these sort of moves. A lot to be seen, but this is just a game-breaking play. And maybe a little less surprising, but still notable, is the return of the LA Cheaters. And having obviously Charge's best friend Casper Ware, Charge is the president of the Casper Ware fan club, and so is Tim Scarborough. We did our first top 25, and Tim was the only person to rank LA. And it wasn't because we didn't respect Ware or the team. They didn't play last year. Ware played for another team last year. I think it was LS, in fact, last year. So he was the only person to rank them. But I think now looking back on that, if they're going to have Ware and Thompson and Derek Williams, this is obviously also a team that's challenging for a protected top 4 seed. I mean, Charge, talk a little bit about your man crush on Casper Ware.
Well, let me start first with why you did not showcase Chance Comanche on this.
God.
I mean,
sorry,
make sure if any Charge players are on the team, at least put a courtesy slide up there and make me happy. But I think this team will start to see some more roster moves as they fill it out as well. But yeah, no secret. Casper Ware. I mean, he's just one of these guards, that just take over the game. Like Jerome Randall and Marcus Keene that just really understand the game, know how to play, can make his team better. And so, if he was playing, Cheaters were back, then, definitely a high seed. Derek Williams, we'll talk a little bit about NBA guys later, but Derek Williams, just a lot of experience in the NBA, took a quick tour through Cleveland, so he's going to be a big addition. Thompson's huge. And I goof about Chance Comanche, but, I mean, he's a really athletic big man, and some of these athletic bigs have performed really well in the tournament, and not necessarily pull up from three and nail some shots, but the athletic bigs have typically done really well in the tournament. So looking forward to this team. But Casper Ware, president of the fan club, all behind LA Cheaters.
Yeah, and it's funny because you look at this roster, and you've got the obviously the elder Splash brother, Michael Thompson. So Matt, what do you think we can get Clay involved in following this team? Get some tweets from Clay to pimp this team a little.
Yeah, you might get him in 10 years.
Well, I don't mean playing for them. I meant like as a booster or like as somebody who's going to be involved.
Yeah, he's like, hell with that. I'll come play. I'm 30.
I mean, Clay could probably play in TBT on the one leg he has healthy right now, right? He'd come out there and just sit in the corner and 28 feet away and just shoot or
sit
something.
on the bench and shoot. Yeah.
So it's interesting, the Drury League too. It's funny because they're one of those amazing sort of like local leagues that you see in sort of grassroots basketball. And it's always as they have this this is always a team that intrigues me. And I'm really excited about seeing them play this year. I think they'll go, this is less of a surprising move because Ware was probably going to go back, obviously, but now that the Cheaters are back in, this is a move that's kind of interesting. There's a lot of other rosters that have some early action. There's about 20 some teams in, but some of them look a little more intriguing early. I mean, all of them look interesting, but like these are 5 we wanted to highlight. Charge, highlight one. What are you thinking here? Which of these we want to talk about first?
Well, I got to go with my boy Vinny and the Jimmy V team, and this team here. I said it on the bracketology show. I think Jimmy V, the work that they were doing over there last year, has really catapulted them from a good, interesting team playing in the TBT to a team that could truly put together top level talent, be a reliable team. They got a chance to make it to Columbus. Unfortunately, COVID got them, but they were putting together a stable of really good players. So I love what Jimmy V's been doing. What they've announced already was that nice backcourt with Josh Perkins and Corey Sanders looks great. They've announced Alpha Kaba and Tyler Stone, so solid players. And I did get kind of an insight into some 3-4 other players they have. Those haven't been released yet, but very, very solid gamers that are just going to make this team even better. So you thought their roster was pretty tough last year. I think this year's roster is going to be even better. So I really love what Jimmy V's been doing.
Yeah, we know our boy Vinny's got some good recruiting going on over there. And I mean, it's interesting too. You should always bet on a team that's got a Memphis guy. And Tyler Stone, obviously from the 901, always going to represent. He actually formerly played for Bluff City as well. So it's always nice to have a Memphis flavor. And also one recruiting note is you're also going to notice that Octavius Ellis is again signing up for Jimmy V, which makes Melvin, our buddy Melvin at Bearcat Jam's job a little harder because it's wouldn't want to have.
Yeah, I forgot Ellis on there, but I was driving through Columbus the other day on the way to your favorite city, Cincinnati, Hainer, and that was one of those interesting ones. As I'm driving through, I'm thinking I really need to see Bearcat Jam and zip them up in Columbus. It'd be a great matchup, great rivalry. But when you already lost Octavius Ellis, and I saw that Yancey Gates is playing with the James Madison team, so already kind of a couple guys who are in that available player pool for him gone. So I really need Melvin to pull it together. I want to see those guys in it. I want to see them again, zip them up, assuming their team's still progressing as needed. But had to make that plug, Melvin. Let's do it, man.
Yeah, let's do it, Melvin. Now, Matt, I know there's a team that's sort of near and dear, a team you like. And we're going to talk about a couple times on the show, but let's start with this one now. So who are you talking about?
Well, I feel like Adam Schefter. I feel like Shefty. I'm getting messages on the team I was going to talk about. Getting breaking news.
Well, don't share them because
no. No. That's not my job. The Team Arkansas, I think, Keith's done a really nice job down there, kind of putting that team together, kind of not a rebuild, obviously, because he's had some good talent, but, getting Barford back with Arkansas. Claus is a great player. Hagens, had some time in the NBA, and it sounds like he's still hunting. So it sounds like he may have tomorrow's a big day for him. It sounds like. I'll just put it that way. So he's still trying to add to that roster, and if he can get some of these guys that I know he's after, that's going to be a really good team.
They're going to be dangerous as hell. And the thing is, they're also in the mix for a lot of people who are TBT veterans. You got Hannah's plays for Eberline. You've got Jacory. And there's guys that, maybe they can flip one or two of these guys and get even better. I mean, they're already dangerous as all living hell as is. And then you look at the people they might be able to steal or flip, and it just gets this is a top 3 seed minimum team as built now, and they're going to be hell on wheels in the tournament. Now, we talked about a lot of love. Let's go with a little bit of hate. As you guys all know, I'm the resident Memphis fan, and I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to play the heel. I hate Tennessee. I always have. I always will. I'd rather they can all go to hell. So they can come on the show and yell at me. I'd love that. We can come on and we just talk a lot of shit about the second best team in Tennessee, Memphis being the first. But all that shit talking aside, they're actually pretty damn loaded. I mean, Lofton is a fucking gunner. You've got Wayne Chisholm, who's a wonderful player. And you've got just a loaded bunch of really fast, really athletic guys. And Tennessee, as much crap as I'm going to talk, has a pretty dangerous roster. So they're going to make and I believe they're flying, and I think they're going to Charleston. Oh, they're going to Columbus. That's interesting. So that might be a little bit of an easier road for them. So I was looking for them to play War Tampa or War Ready in the Bruce Pearl Memorial game. He's not dead. Well, he eats enough. Maybe he will be one day. And then so you have like Tennessee and Auburn play in the Bruce Pearl game, but they're going to Columbus, which I find personally a little.
Which team does he pay?
Which team does he pay? I guess he pays both. I mean, Auburn's facing like their usual problems because of Pearl, and I mean, shout out to Steve Forbes, who's now the coach, I believe, at Wake Forest, because he got the 1-year show clause. I mean, there should be a team that's just coached by show clause guys. I just want to see Dave Bliss coach a TBT team. I think that would be absolutely just call it the Ray Caruth All-Stars or something absolutely horrible. Okay, let's go back to who wants to go, Matt or Charge? Let's do Matt. We'll close on Charge. So Matt, you know where you want to talk about. You actually are a Peoria boy originally, which I did not know.
Yeah.
So talk about him. Talk about your recruiting coup of last year and cry a little.
No, it's all right. No, we had originally had Mike, and then not making it. It's nothing against anybody. We told Mike, hey, whoever you want us to help get you on another team, and he knew some of the Illinois guys, and I was like, yeah, it looks like a pretty good roster. Sounds like they're pretty legit. So, and the funny part was. When we first heard, I've got a good relationship with Billy Clapper down at Sideline. Great guy. Friend of the pod. Yeah. So when we found out when we weren't going to get in, he was my first phone call. I told him, hey, if there's anybody on our team you'd like me to, I know you probably said, but if there's anybody you'd like me to make a phone call for, let me know. I was like, Tyrus McGee's an elite shooter. I was like, obviously we got Dom, whatnot. And God bless him. He had another guy in mind for that position where Mike was, and he called me afterwards. He's like, God, I'm kicking myself. I didn't.
Can you imagine?
No, he was good.
Can you imagine Mike Dom next to Abel?
Oh, can you imagine him on that team?
And Keen? I mean, Eric Thompson just set screens for all four of them. They're running a 4-out, 1-in offense. Thompson just runs around the perimeter, setting screens to spring guys and does the dirty work. And you put those 4 shooters, they would never lose. They would literally never lose a game. They would be OE for the next 5 years.
Oh, they've been so good. But no, that Illinois team will be good. I got a soft spot in my heart for Illinois basketball.
And we're also, this is where we also mentioned that we have applied for press credentials, so hopefully we get them. And we're trying to go to Charleston. I think it's where Charles and I are trying to go for the first half, but we're either going to both go to Columbus or split. And I might go to Peoria. So Matt, if we go to Peoria, do you have any ideas on restaurants I can go to?
Not a
got nothing for me. It's just it's nothing going on.
There's a fantastic Applebee's there. Beautiful Peoria, Illinois.
I absolutely love it. Okay, so let's talk about the last team we want to talk about here. Talk to me about the nerd team, Charles. As a nerd myself, I find this interesting.
Yeah, the nerd team. So I saw this one creep up recently, and this one here is focused on guys coming from college with a high academic standard. So,
the Ohio State University is not present.
No, they're not going to be on this team. But yeah, it's just Ivy League types. It's a real interesting team, and the talent's already coming around for those guys. I mean, and I'm going to butcher his name, but John DiBartolomeo. I mean, this guy's been a legend overseas for years and years now. Just high level basketball, and taking care of business over there. You got Keith Wright who can play, Kyle Casey who can play. So just a really good squad of people that they're no pun intended, going to be a smart team. They're going to play tough and play together. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the rest of this team round out and kind of new to TBT, good theme, which, like I said, we need that fan base and that narrative. And I think they're going to provide a good one.
You know what this team needs? I just realized what this team needs, actually. He should be in the NBA now. This team needs Jeremy Lin.
There you go.
Harvard guy. Go make it happen.
That could be one of the NBA players that show up, which we'll talk about here.
Yeah.
But hey, before we pull off this slide, I know you're trying to rein me in, and I can't talk about all the teams.
Go ahead. It's a podcast.
Bummer,
it's not a
Underground Kings. Yeah, so we limited to this slide to who's officially applied and shown on the TBT website. But I get every year I get hyped up for Underground King. They were bringing a team last year. These guys remind me so much of D2, where they're going to be a real gritty, real hungry team, and they're going to do fantastic. So, watch for them. And then the other thing that's really cool is Showtime tweeted out the other day that they have big news coming really, really soon. And it is really, really cool. So I don't know when. Super cool. And so I don't know how long it's going to take for them to announce it, but stay tuned for that. Get your popcorn ready.
Get your popcorn ready. Shane Presley, friend of the pod, great guy. Yes. Matt, any other team observations you want to bring before we go on?
No, I mean, that Tennessee team, like you talked about, I mean, they were really good last year. That wasn't the issue. So, hopefully they've got some of that ironed out a little bit. Like
I hope they lose. I hope they lose in the first round, like by 20.
That's how you operate.
I'm a hater. And if we're going to make other observations, as a D3 guy, I went to WashU, obviously. Devon Rucker, power forward, 6'5" out of WashU. So the Bears are going to have somebody in TBT for the first time. So that's very cool. So my alma mater, the school I actually went to, which is also a nerd school, will be having a player in the tournament. So that's very exciting for anybody who went to the pride of St. Louis, Missouri, the WashU Bears. Okay, so let's close on this sort of thought. We got some bold predictions, and they're in order. Now, to be clear, we're not guaranteeing these things will happen, but they're things that we think are possible and worth discussing. So we're going to start with our guest, Matt. So let's hit it.
Yeah, I'm going to have one state hate me and one state love me. Let's whatever.
Hi, Ott.
Yeah, hi, Ott. You're a great dude. So nothing personal. My prediction: Ja'Cory Williams goes back to Arkansas, gets with Barford and those guys, and then that obviously takes away from what Herd That's got going on. Herd That doesn't see the weekend.
Ooh,
Team Arkansas, Final Four team.
I can see both those things happening. Now, Herd could also, if this does happen and it happens earlier rather than later, they can find the free agent market and maybe find a regular player. So it doesn't doom Herd That so much as it really would help Team Arkansas. I mean, really
if you got a free agent Ja'Cory Williams laying around, let me know and I'll go.
let me look under the cushions of my couch.
Go get him. I'll go get him.
That team's really coming together, and I'm kind of getting that same vibe as Matt put out there. And, it's not only the appeal of Team Arkansas, but Ja'Cory's got some tight connections over there with C.J. Jones and Dustin Thomas and some guys like that. So it's a chance to play for Team Arkansas again, kind of be with some guys he's comfortable with. So it should be good. And the interesting thing is this is really going to be a deep team. Can they pull Dusty Hannahs away from Eberline? So I know they're calling Dusty every year trying to get him back. So you never know.
It's really tough too, because I hate to do this because we all love Matt Mitchell, good guy. He actually won our the pool I had for NCAA this year. So I ended up giving Matt some money this year, actually. But what's funny with Matt is he's got a great team every year, but the non-alumni teams get a little squeezed when this starts to happen. So if he loses Hannah on top of already losing Randall, and I mean, what if Makura goes to like zip him up? I mean, it starts to be a real problem. I mean, they'll probably have Maggette back, so it's lovely, and they're gonna have a roster. Everline's not going to screw around, but there are some limitations that start to come into play.
It's interesting you say that because, yeah, like we talked about, these alumni teams, it's hard to start a new one, right? But if you've got one established, like you said, when I look at it, I go, oh man, Eberline and these cause teams, it's a lot easier because you can pick from whatever team you want to. Where Team Arkansas has Arkansas, right?
Yeah.
So you really have to appeal to these guys to come home and play for your home school. Sometimes you can sell them, sometimes you can't. But from everything I'm hearing, it sounds like Keith's starting to get these guys to come back, and that's awesome. That's fun.
Keith is in the running already, I think, for maybe GM of the year. I really think it's a possibility. He's already pulled.
Yeah, we're giving Barford to Arkansas. That's
huge.
Huge.
That's huge. So Charge, a new former NBA vet, will play in TBT in 2021. Talk a little bit about this. And we have the Misfits highlight.
Before we get to the Misfits, it kind of ties into that, but I think last year was pretty amazing to watch ISO Joe, kind of come over to the TBT. I mean, obviously very decorated NBA veteran, very well-known NBA player. And, by all accounts and everyone I talked to, sounds like it was a really great experience for Joe Johnson in the TBT. His team performed well, a lot of accolades, and you can see what he could still do on the court and got some good looks from his time in the TBT. So I think we could see, whether it's ISO Joe returning. You mentioned guys like Jeremy Lin, but I think it opens up the door for more kind of NBA vets. When I say NBA vets, I mean, there's a ton of guys who have played in the NBA out there, but some of these well-tenured, well-known, well-respected NBA guys that are going to look into the TBT. And that kind of takes me to the Misfits, which is absolutely one of my favorite teams so far this year. So a couple of names being dangled around that we saw online earlier this week. So the team is still kind of a little bit fluid, but my understanding is that Big Baby Davis is pretty much locked in over there. Nate Robinson's pretty much locked in over there. And that's after we already talked about Tony Roten and Justin Detman. So, I mean, this is going to be a loaded roster as well. So when we're talking about guys like ALS, this Misfits team is going to be phenomenal. And I think we're going to once again hear about 4 or 5 other guys that are just going to blow your mind. And, do they have any other aces up their sleeves besides, what we talked about? But I think it just really opens up the door based on last year to get more NBA guys interested in the TBT.
Definitely agree. And by the way, just to call it back to some of our earlier context, you wanted to build the narrative. We do too, obviously. We made our too early bracketology, and it's interesting because we were just kind of figuring it out, and we had the Misfits as the blended around 13, which feels 10 spots too low now. They're closer to a 3 seed at this point, or even higher. This roster's sick.
Anyone else would have been the top 25 besides me?
The top 25? I don't know. I'm looking. I have
them in the top 25. So yeah, I'm not bandwagoning these guys. I
understand. I'm looking, but I'm trying to figure out where you put.
Painter's going to show up, pushing for the Misfits once they announce their full roster. But remember where you heard it first.
I think. Hey, if you're going to call me out, I'm looking at the bracketology. You had them as a 12. So don't sit here and give me this crap about you had them completely figured out. But yeah, the top 25.
I said the top 25. I had them.
That's true. The top 25 came out
me down. I don't know.
No, I'm looking at yours. You had them as a 12. I'm actually having the file open right now. That doesn't matter. But I mean, yeah, we both agree.
Yeah, these guys are going to be dangerous. Good. They just got to lock in Selby though. He's one. Like I said, I'm not 100% where the roster is fully, but sounds like a couple of those guys I mentioned are locked in, and hopefully they'll get Selby as well. And
Well, Matt, you were actually you were in Wichita last time. There was the self-made team there. I mean, any chance you think they need? I mean, I can't imagine having a tournament in Wichita and not have a Kansas team. I mean, they can get Taylor maybe off Stillwater, get Selby from the Misfits, and get 3 guys. Get Perry Ellis's 87-year-old body out there and figure it out.
Well, like I said, last time I saw Perry Ellis when we were coming into Wichita, he was walking out on crutches with a messed up knee. So I don't even know what he's doing right now. So it's going to be tough because, again, especially you start going through that roster, who are you going to get that's going to
Yeah.
I mean,
I named Selby and Tyshawn, and then at that point, you could get the Lawson brothers. I mean, the Memphis products, Diedrich and KJ Lawson are pretty good, and they both transferred to Kansas. They could actually run some point center and some point forward. So you might have a long athletic roster if you were to add those guys. I think they're playing somewhere else now, but
and that's
something you could do.
I haven't heard any. I haven't heard anything.
I'm surprised. That needs to come together just for the gate.
Yeah, it is surprising that you haven't heard anything like, hey, is anybody putting together a Kansas team?
Yeah, kind of interesting.
It's just such a big school for them not to be in. Or Kansas State. I haven't heard from Kansas State.
Kansas State, I wouldn't be surprised if they don't show up. They played in Peoria. I believe the last time it was in Peoria, and I think they've been close to having some teams. So, the thing that's scary, though, is you got that short application window now. So if the wheels aren't in motion, it's not going to happen. I mean, you can't pick it up today and make it happen.
Yeah. Okay, so my bold prediction, it's not really super bold, is a double-digit team will advance Dayton. Now, I laid the underdogs as a sort of reference because they were the lowest seed in Memphis, and they beat a bunch of teams in Memphis. Obviously, mine included. They didn't make it out. But the reality is the underdogs aren't coming back. So they've lost their teams. Or we don't know they're not coming back, but we strongly suspect they're not coming back because Barford's left and they've lost some other people to some of the Eastern Tennessee type teams. So they're probably not coming back. But I'm looking just at some of the names we had on the bracketology seed line under we're under the digit line, under a 9 seed, 9 or under. You're looking at teams like Gale Nation, Mid-American Unity, Fort Hood Wounded Warriors will have DJ Steffens, a great guy on the pod. Cat 5 we had down there, 20th only. So there's some teams, Louisiana United. There's some dangerous teams that are going to be around that 10 line that can catch a win early and then catch a team sleeping. Next thing you know, get the crowd behind them. You got to win 3 to get to Dayton. It's possible. And I think this year, due to the flatness of the teams between about 27 and 45, you're going to see one of them break through, I think. I don't think that's really that bold, but that's where we're at. So, guys, let me stop sharing screen. We'll sort of close it off. So that's been fun. That's a good show, I think. We had a good time with this.
Just on your prediction, it's pretty wild. I mean, just like I said, just looking at the teams already, I mean, you've got 24 teams that applied, and we know there's going to be some
a bunch more
teams here. So, I mean, you're probably going to be 40 to 48 deep of teams that are equal or better caliber of that top 24 that played last year in Columbus. So when you talk about seeding in the tournament, we knew last year with only 24, you can almost throw the seeding out the window because it was going to be that competitive. And I expect a lot more of the same this year just because it is really that deep and the talent is phenomenal as you browse through some of these rosters and see who's showing up. It's mind-blowing how good the people playing in the TBT are.
And it's still early. Matt, anything you're seeing early that you think is really interesting?
Yeah, I mean, kind of going back to this a little bit, but I mean, I feel like some of these teams, you're seeing a little bit of separation between the haves and the have-nots of this tournament where, your sideline cancers and, some of those guys. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams that have absolutely no idea what they're up against with some of these like elite teams. I mean, it's a year-round thing for them. I mean, they recruit like it. I mean, I know of certain players that were being pursued by other teams that were doing Zoom calls last fall, trying to, not long after the tournament in full recruiting pitch. Right. So, I mean, some of these teams you can't just show up with 10 guys and say, hey, this is my alumni team. Let's go have some fun. I mean, it's getting real serious on the talent level. And you talk about some of these NBA vets that are going to start playing and these teams that got their hooks into some guys from other that didn't play at their school. These teams that are coming in now, they better be loaded up because it's look at the teams that have applied. I mean, good Lord, there's some really good teams. So good luck.
Yeah, it's going to be.
You got to show up with the best. So, I mean, back, let's say early years of TBT, I could bring my over 40 league all-stars out there and, get into TBT and, get whipped and, it was no worse for the wear. But what I really find interesting about the TBT is it's really becoming a business. I mean, teams are becoming franchises when you look at sideline cancer and overseas elite and some of these big alumni teams like Ohio State. So there's big brands and big franchises. I mean, and when you say picking players, it's not just picking players, it's negotiations. I mean, some players have demands and, travel or whatever the case is. And, let's be honest. I mean, we know players are getting paid to, show up and play for a team. So, yeah, you can't just roll up and, hope that your guys make it and that these guys want to play for you. But, I mean, because it is business and it is kind of building brands and building franchises at this stage of the TBT.
Well, and I've said this, I had this conversation with Hayner, is some teams going to figure out how to get a major corporate sponsor to pay their players just to come play.
We're happy to take a major corporate sponsor for the podcast too, in case anybody wants to just
also
throw money at us. Yeah, if anyone wants to just give us money, we have followers in the dozens.
Oh.
So at least
the high dozens.
So there's not going to be a call-in show coming out anytime soon. Is that what you're saying?
Just crickets to get call-in show. Like no one's
Do we
here.
have a call? No call. Yeah, but that's what I've said for a little bit is, somebody's going to figure out how to get a major corporate sponsor. So these guys aren't just coming to play just to, for a lot of them for nothing. You know what I mean? So we'll see where that goes, but somebody will figure it out. Somebody will do it.
All right. Corporate sponsorship. Someone needs to pay the podcast too. Matt, thanks for swinging by.
Yeah, it's great to see you guys, man. It's good to see you.
Charge and Hayner present Zoom the TBT with the early roster moves signing off.
Hope you enjoyed listening to Zoom the TBT with Charge and Hayner. Subscribe to YouTube, follow on Twitter, and give us your money.